Bubbles is one of the strangest informants in The Wire because he is both everywhere and invisible at the same time. He walks through corners, alleys, markets, towers, police offices, hospital rooms, recovery meetings, and newspaper offices, but almost nobody looks at him closely enough to understand what he is actually doing. That makes the question interesting. Did people know Bubbles was a snitch? The answer is yes and no. The police knew. Some addicts probably knew he had police connections. A few people may have suspected he talked. But the street, in the serious organized sense, does not seem to treat Bubbles as a known informant. He is never hunted the way Randy is hunted. He is never marked the way Bodie is marked after being seen with McNulty. He is never treated as someone dangerous to a crew. Most of the time, he is treated as something smaller and sadder. A fiend, a hustler, a guy who might steal from you, borrow from you, lie to you, or annoy you, but not someone with enough power to bring down a drug organization. That difference matters. In The Wire, snitch is not just a word. It is a death sentence, or at least a social death sentence. Once that label sticks to someone, the city starts closing around them. Randy Wagstaff is the cleanest example. He is not even really trying to be a police informant in the way Bubbles is. He is a school kid caught in a situation he does not fully understand, and once the rumor spreads that he talked, it destroys him. His classmates turn on him. His foster home becomes unsafe. The system fails to protect him. The word snitch does more damage than the actual information he gives. Bubbles never carries that public label in the same way. That alone tells us something. If everyone on the corners truly knew Bubbles was feeding names, locations, and street information to Kima and the detail, he would not be able to drift through the city the way he does. He would be beaten, chased away, or killed. The fact that he keeps moving around the West Side for years means his informant work is either hidden well enough, ignored because of his status, or dismissed because nobody sees him as important. The first important example comes early in the show when Bubbles becomes useful to the police after Johnny gets beaten by the Barksdale crew. Bubbles is angry, but he is also practical. He knows the corners. He knows faces. He knows who matters and who only looks like they matter. The police have wiretaps, reports, and theories, but Bubbles has street-level vision. He can point at people and explain who they are without needing a file. That is what makes him valuable. He does not give the police grand speeches about the drug trade. He gives them the thing they actually need at the start: recognition, faces, habits, movement. The detail is trying to understand the Barksdale organization from the outside, and Bubbles lets them cheat their way inside for a second. The comment to make here is that Bubbles is only useful because he does not look useful. Nobody on the corner is thinking, this man is part of a long-term police investigation. They see a junkie. They see somebody trying to get money, drugs, food, or a way through the day. The same thing that ruins Bubbles' life also protects his informant role. His addiction makes people look down on him, and because they look down on him, they do not always watch him carefully. This is one of the cruel little mechanics of The Wire. The city has a hierarchy of attention. People watch Avon, people watch Stringer, people watch Omar, people watch Bodie when he starts moving differently. But Bubbles is usually beneath notice. He is not invisible because the city is kind. He is invisible because the city has already decided he does not count. The Red Hat scheme in Season 1 is another strong example. Bubbles helps the police identify people by marking them in a way the detail can understand. It is a risky thing to do, but it also works because the people around him do not treat him as a strategic threat. He can move through the environment with a kind of low-level permission. He is annoying, but familiar. He is part of the scenery. If the Barksdale crew already knew Bubbles was a police informant, that scheme would be impossible. They would not let him get that close. They would not dismiss his movements. Someone like Bodie might clown him, shove him, or ignore him, but he is not watching Bubbles the way he would watch a rival dealer or a suspicious stranger. That is the point. Bubbles survives by being underestimated. The comment after this example is that The Wire understands how intelligence actually works in a broken city. Information does not only come from detectives doing brilliant detective work, it comes from people nobody respects. Bubbles is not clean, stable, or powerful, but he knows things because he is present. He sees the daily machinery of the drug trade from ground level. The police need him because their official view of the street is often worse than his unofficial one. But the show also makes clear that this arrangement is exploitative. Kima treats Bubbles with more humanity than most police, but the relationship is still built on use. The police need information, and Bubbles needs money, protection, revenge, or just someone to answer the phone. He is not truly safe with them. He is useful until he is inconvenient. That becomes clearer later with Herc. Herc's treatment of Bubbles is one of the most direct examples of how the police can get a snitch hurt without even meaning to. Bubbles comes to him because he is being terrorized by a street predator. He is being robbed and beaten, and he wants help. In theory, this is exactly the kind of thing a police contact should be useful for. Bubbles has helped the police before. He has given them information. Now he needs something back, but Herc does not really see him. He sees an informant as a tool, not a person. Bubbles keeps calling, keeps asking, keeps trying to get help, and Herc keeps failing him. That failure pushes Bubbles into a desperate plan, and Sherrod dies because of it. This is important for the snitch question because it shows the danger of being known to police without actually being protected by police. Bubbles has police access, but not police protection. He can call Herc, but Herc can ignore him. He can help investigations, but when his own life becomes the emergency, the system does not move with the same urgency. The comment here is that The Wire does not romanticize informants. It does not treat snitching as a simple moral category. Sometimes Bubbles talks to the police because he wants revenge. Sometimes he does it because he wants money. Sometimes he does it because he has relationships with specific detectives. Sometimes he does it because he is trapped in a world where every option is dirty. The show is not saying Bubbles is noble because he talks, or evil because he talks. It is showing how survival turns people into instruments. And Bubbles is very aware of that. He is not stupid. He understands the street. He knows what happens if the wrong people know too much. That is why his informant work usually happens in controlled spaces. Police cars, side conversations, moments away from the corner. He is not standing in the middle of the pit announcing that he works with Kima. He knows better. Still, some people close to him must have understood there was something going on. Johnny, for example, spends enough time with Bubbles to know that Bubbles has strange connections and strange ways of getting by. But Johnny is not part of a crew that can punish him for it. Johnny is another addict. He is inside Bubbles' life, not inside the power structure of the street. Even if he knows or suspects something, that knowledge does not travel upward in a dangerous way. That distinction matters. A person knowing is not the same as the street knowing. A rumor in the mouth of another addict does not carry the same force as a rumor inside Marlowe's crew or Avon's organization. The Wire is very careful about that. Information only becomes deadly when it reaches the people with the power and incentive to act on it. That is why the comparison with Bodie is useful. Bodie is seen getting into a car with McNulty, and that is enough to seal his fate. Bodie is not a professional informant like Bubbles. He is not secretly working with the police across multiple seasons, but he is a soldier in the game, and when a soldier appears to be talking, that threatens the structure. Marlowe's world has no space for ambiguity. If someone looks like they might talk, they are already a problem. Bubbles does not occupy that same category. He is not trusted with stash locations, bodies, murders, or organizational secrets. He hears things, sees things, and understands patterns, but he is not inside the crew. So even when he talks, he is not violating the same code from the same position. The street may despise snitches in theory, but it also ranks people. Bubbles is not a fallen soldier. He is a fiend who was never considered loyal in the first place. That does not make him safe, but it changes the reaction. A corner boy snitching is betrayal. A junkie talking is almost weather. People might hate it, but they may also assume junkies will say anything for money or drugs. That is part of the ugly realism of the show. The more degraded the world thinks Bubbles is, the less seriously it treats his choices. Randy's story proves the opposite side. Randy is a child, but because he is still socially legible, the accusation sticks. People care enough to punish him. He has a name in school, he has a home that can be attacked, he has a future that can be damaged. Bubbles, at his lowest, has almost nothing for the street to take except his body. So did the street know Bubbles was a snitch? Not in the full public sense, not the way they knew about Randy, not the way Marlowe's people suspected Bodie, not in a way that made him a marked man. But people likely knew he had police contact, especially over time. The difference is that Bubbles lived in a category where that knowledge did not automatically become a citywide alarm. The show gives him a strange protection through pity and contempt. People do not respect him enough to fear him. That is bleak, but it is also why he survives. Bubbles can be beaten, robbed, humiliated, ignored, and used, but he is rarely treated as a strategic enemy. He is too low in the eyes of the game. There is also another layer. Bubbles' informant work is not his whole identity in the show. He is a snitch, yes, but The Wire does not reduce him to that. He is also an addict, a friend, a salesman, a caretaker, a liar, a survivor, a man with guilt, and eventually a man trying to live with what he has done. The show spends much more time on the cost of his addiction than on the mechanics of his informing. That is why Sherrod's death changes everything. It is not about Bubbles getting exposed as a snitch. It is about Bubbles being forced to face the damage around him. For years, he survives through little schemes. Some are funny, some are pathetic, some are useful to the police. But after Sherrod dies, the old Bubbles cannot continue. The pain becomes too large to hustle around. His cooperation with police becomes small compared to that guilt. The real question shifts from who did Bubbles tell on to can Bubbles live with himself? That is where the show's interest really is. The snitch label belongs to the game. Bubbles' story eventually moves outside the game, or at least tries to. His ending supports that. By the final season, Bubbles is no longer mainly defined by what he can give police. He is in recovery. He speaks at meetings. He builds a fragile relationship with his sister. He tells his story through Fletcher at the Baltimore Sun. The city still has its violence and corruption, But Bubbles' arc becomes one of the few places where The Wire allows real movement. Not a miracle, not a clean victory. Just movement. That matters because if the show had wanted Bubbles to be the Snitch character, it could have ended him through that label. It could have had the street find out. It could have made him another body caused by the information economy of Baltimore. Instead, it makes his greatest punishment internal. The thing that almost destroys Bubbles is not Avon, Stringer, Marlowe, or a corner boy discovering his police work. It is the death of Sherrod and the knowledge that his own desperate survival tactic killed someone he loved. So the best answer is this. People in the police world knew Bubbles was an informant. People close to Bubbles probably knew or suspected he had police connections. But the drug organizations did not seem to know in a way that mattered, or at least they did not treat him as a known snitch. His status as a homeless addict made him visible enough to gather information, but invisible enough to avoid the full consequences. That is one of the sad ironies of Bubbles. He survives partly because he is not respected. The world looks at him and sees a problem, a joke, a nuisance, a body moving through alleys. Kima sees more than that, but even she is part of a system that uses him. Herc sees less than that, and his carelessness helps push Bubbles toward disaster. The street sees him as a fiend, and because of that, it misses the fact that he is often one of the sharpest observers in the show. Bubbles knows Baltimore from underneath. That is why he can snitch. That is also why nobody fully sees him doing it.